Hello, everyone. I'm Carlos Funes from AYSO. I'm the communication specialist. This is a pre-recorded webinar with Katie McKee. It is Mental Health Awareness Month for the month of May. And what better than to have MindFit specialist Katie McKee. A little bit about her. She has a bachelor's in psychology from Redlands University. She got a master's as well from JFK University. She played college soccer. She's an AYSO coach. She's been featured in numerous blogs from AYSO, newsletters, and features within PlaySoccer Magazine. We're really happy to have her here today. She's a spectacular specialist in the mental performance field. And she's here today to cover some things to have you prepared and strong during the COVID-19 crisis that we have going on right now and the time away from the field. So I'll let Katie take it away from here.
Nice. Thanks, Carlos. I'm happy to be here and excited to kind of talk today about some things we can be doing at home to help enhance our game so we're ready for when sports return. So I'd like to go through some things here and talk a little bit about some mental performance tips that youth can utilize and kind of maximize during this time. The first thing, and if any of you have read any of my articles on some of the newsletters and such for AYSO, you'll recognize this concept of feel and deal. And it is one of my favorite mantras that I work with clients on, because we have to kind of accept what we're feeling. And one of my favorite quotes in reference to what we feel and the emotions we're going through is the only way out of it is through it. And that really hits home, because this time right now with COVID-19 and sports kind of being postponed and schools being taken at home, we're kind of in this new normal. We're kind of dealing with stressors in a different way, and it can bring about things like anxiety and fear of the unknown, and kind of understanding what emotions we're feeling is what's really going to help us be able to process it and move on from it. And so the field of sports psychology has, we like to come up with a lot of mantras. So name it to tame it. What are you feeling? Feel it, acknowledge it, talk about it, journal about it, sit with it, kind of understand what it is you're going through. And by doing that and acknowledging and accepting it, then we can kind of move on from it. There are going to be ups and downs. That's certainly a big part of this process. Like some days we were feeling really good and others were kind of a little bit lower. But part of what we're experiencing now, and I'm seeing a lot with some of these clients that I work with, is this sense of anxiety. And anxiety is typically worrying about something in the past or some unknown in the future. And that's kind of the space we're in right now. There's a lot of unknowns in the future with how things are going to proceed and reopen and when sports are coming back. And that's on a lot of people's minds, particularly kids. When am I going to be able to get back to training? When am I going to be able to practice with my team again and see my friends? And when can we start competing? And what's it going to look like? And what if I'm not in as good a shape as my teammates? Or what if they've gotten better than me somehow, or I've gotten better than them? There's lots of stuff going on in their mind. So we want to make sure that we give ourselves the space to feel it so we can deal with it. And we want to do so without any judgment of ourselves, of others. We kind of want to go through the process of, why might I be feeling this way? And where might this be coming from? And is this realistic? Or are my expectations, do they need to be adjusted? How can I work through this stuff? And so hopefully today we can learn some things that we can do and kind of come together as a community and as a group to work through those things. One of the big things with like anxiety especially, but kind of dealing with what we're going through right now with the COVID crisis, is controllables. And another acronym we like to use in our field is what's important now. What's important now. So as we're going through this and we're feeling these stressors and these concerns about what's coming in the future, how can we bring ourselves back into the now? What's important right now, today? What can I do? How can I address what I'm feeling today. How can I get better today? And so reminding ourselves what's in our control as opposed to what's out of our control can help us through this process. For example, some of the things inside of our control are thoughts, reactions, my attitude, my effort, my self-talk, my gratitude. And some of the things that are outside of our control are things like when sports are going to come back, what they're going to look like, the process of homeschooling, what my parents or my siblings are doing or thinking or feeling. I can't control that stuff. So how can I bring myself back into the process of focusing on what's in my control and what's important right now? And one of the great ways to do that, you've probably seen this in other places, but are to focus on gratitudes. By doing that, by focusing on gratitudes, we take away the power of that fear has. Fear of the unknown. Well, if I'm grateful for what I have today, I'm worried less about this unknown or these fears. So trying to find what the silver linings are, what the positives are. I know in a lot of elementary schools and middle schools, students and youth have probably heard the concept of fill your tank or fill your bucket. So during this time, when we have maybe a little extra time on our hands, how can we either fill someone else's tank or fill our own tank? What might we need to do or can we do to help us feel really good? And thinking about this whole process, the more we engage in negative stuff, the more power we give it. So on the flip side of that, the more we engage in positive stuff, the more power we give it. And one of the ways to think about silver linings is to embrace change. And it's really hard for a lot of people, myself included. I struggle with it at times, but I have to remind myself sometimes to think, what good is coming from this, or what good can come from this? And I look back on this experience and say, what do I wish I did? And how can I kind of have that perspective and say, okay, I'm going to do this today to help me for tomorrow. And I'm going to do this tomorrow to help me for the next day. And we can kind of continue to build off of it. And one of the most important concepts during all this, especially when it comes to mental health, is self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. The way you talk to yourself matters. So talk to yourself in a good, positive, happy way. Now, there might be some areas about motivation, like they are a challenge right now. I've seen it with some of my youth clients, kind of the motivation to kind of get out and do some training activities and practice some of our skills. It's a little bit harder right now. There's a little bit of lethargy going around, but one of the best ways to help contribute to motivation is to connect. That connection is really, really important. So can you connect with your coaches and your trainers and especially your teammates, either virtually or from a safe social distance? And I think that will really help with our overall psyche. Connection is really important for humans in general, and how can we kind of facilitate that process throughout this safer at home time and throughout this COVID-19 crisis. Another thing that helps motivation is to have a daily routine, and especially for youth, but adults included, having a routine helps contribute to the management of stress and expectations, and it gives you a sense of accomplishment. So whether it's something sport related or fitness related or school related, what are some daily goals and some daily accomplishments you'd like to achieve by the end of the day? And how can you kind of check off that you're getting them done each day? With that said, especially for youth and for the parents that are listening, giving kids a choice in the order of which they want to accomplish things helps increase motivation. We feel more motivated when we feel like we have a choice in something. So how can we kind of compromise in that sense? And if you see here, I have written get to rather than have to. And the purpose of that is changing our perspective to think about, I get to do this stuff today, rather than I have to do this stuff today. Sometimes just the way we phrase things makes a big difference in our outlook and our motivation towards doing them. So this is also related to gratitudes. I get to train today. I get to talk to my friends today. I get to be outside today, as opposed to I have to do this today. Feels a little different. And another thing is to kind of take a step back. I know a lot of coaches have been doing an awesome job meeting with their teams and doing virtual training sessions and kind of keeping kids accountable to let's get some progress during this time as well. But the other area of sport and performance is the mental side. So taking a step back and saying, what mental skills can I get better at right now that I have a little extra time to say, okay, can I work on my self-talk? Can I work on some of my imagery skills? Can I work on my goal setting and my mindset? Is there film available for me to watch that I could maybe take a look at that might help me in the future? So kind of thinking about things from a different perspective, and what do I get to do that can make me better as a person, as a player, as a student, that I can use this time really wisely and continue to grow. So I put together a couple of ideas that I think would be really beneficial for youth to be able to build their mindset, and that shouldn't take very long each day. You can spend just a few minutes each day, and as you get better and better at it, add more and more time to it. But start out with something like 5 or 10 minutes a day. And one of those things is to start with self-reflection, which sometimes is hard, sometimes it's really rewarding and enjoyable. But one of the things that's beneficial about self-reflection is identifying strengths or areas for improvement, recognizing what's my self-talk like, what do I do well in my position and in my sport, what can I do to get better, what is my body language like when I play, or what is it like when I don't play well, or when I make a mistake, or after I score a goal, or after someone scores a goal on me. And recognizing the differences in those things can give me the power to then say, okay, the next time I'm in this situation, I know how I want to approach it. And I know that if I'm noticing my body language, then so is everybody else. And is that giving someone else an advantage that maybe I want to give back to myself? So I need to be more in control of my body language or how I talk to myself. And I'm going to come back to that concept in a minute. But self-reflection is a really powerful process, and can be something that you could do every day. One great way to do that is to journal. I know not everybody might be into journaling. It can be a really cool way to kind of track progress and to jot down a few thoughts that might say, okay, what did I do well today? What can I do to get better? How might this impact my tomorrow? And what do I want to do differently? So thinking about that as an option to spend a few minutes a day on just some self-reflective stuff. Another great thing you can do at this time is to work on your breathing. And breathing seems like such a funny concept to say, oh, breathing is a skill, but believe it or not, it is. It's something that can be trained. And when we can connect to the most basic things in life and use them purposely to facilitate our process. So things like breathing. I've given 2 examples of types of breath work that have been proven really beneficial for multiple reasons. The first one's called box breathing. As you're doing it, kind of picture a square, and each side of the square represents 4 seconds. So for the first side, inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. So it looks something like this. What's nice about it is it allows us to kind of reset our mind and our body. Breathing naturally can lower our heart rate and bring our body back to a steady state. It can also quiet our mind if we need it to. If we see our minds chattering in language that's not useful to us, maybe we need to take a reset breath to bring us back to where we want to be. Another example of breathing is circle breathing. And this type of breathing, you're essentially picturing a circle. You're breathing in through your nose for 3 to 4 seconds, holding it for 4 to 5 seconds, and breathing out your mouth for 5 to 6 seconds. So as you notice, the time of inhale is a little shorter than the time of exhale. And I should have wrote on here, breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth, thus creating a circle. But the idea is to breathe in the good, breathe in the calm, and breathe out the bad, breathe out the stress, breathe out the negative. So we're creating a circle between nose and mouth. And you can repeat that as much as necessary. but it becomes really useful tool when we're tired, when we're running sprints, or we've just done a hard workout, when we need to focus and we're just having trouble wrapping our mind around the physical or fitness skill we need to do that day, or the homework we have to do that day. Sometimes we just need a breath to help us refocus. And this next one, sensory awareness training, is one of my favorite to work with youth on, because it helps us kind of break down our levels of focus, and it's also an introduction to imagery. And the idea is to pick a singular object, for example, maybe this pen, and I'm going to focus all my attention on this pen and only this pen, and I'm going to notice anything that I hear while I'm focusing, and anything that I see related to this pen, anything that I taste while I'm focusing, or smell or feel. The idea is to break it down in terms of the 5 senses. So we're creating 5 sense awareness. And as I'm doing that and other distractions are happening around me, maybe planes are flying by or cars are driving by or a sibling runs by in the background, can I let that stuff kind of just breeze by and redirect my focus back on that singular thing I'm focusing on? And doing that helps us in the future when we need to have that more narrow focus on the task at hand. So as we train it now on simple things, it will create our skill to be able to do it when things are a little bit more hectic. Another idea is to practice imagery, and that's part of where sensory awareness can come in. But can we take a few minutes every day, maybe in the morning or when I'm lying in bed before I go to sleep, and just close my eyes and picture myself playing my sport in all different kinds of situations? Maybe it's hot out that day. Maybe I'm playing really well. Maybe I'm not playing as well. Can I go through all these different scenarios and start to be aware of the differences? Maybe I'm in one image, I'm playing really well, and I recognize how I was feeling, what I was thinking. Another time when I was doing imagery, I wasn't playing as well, and I'm taking note of how I was feeling and what I was thinking. By noticing the differences in the future, I can apply what I've learned from that imagery session and say, you know what, I'm going to try to recreate these thoughts and feelings that helped me perform well. So taking notice of what happens when you go through that process. And while doing that, bring in some of that breathing practice as well. One of the most important mental skills you can build is your self-talk. The idea is to aim for positive self-kindness. In other words, talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. Would you tell a friend something really mean and negative the same way you might tell yourself that? Probably not. So let's talk to ourselves in the same way. Negative thoughts are going to happen. They're a part of life. They're a part of the process. But what makes us skilled and have a very solid mindset is to be able to redirect any negative thoughts or language back to something that's better for you. I like to, especially when I'm working with youth, an easy visual, all of us can kind of picture in cartoons there's something like the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. Well, instead of I don't call them that, angel, devil, I call one shoulder the hater and one the motivator. Because sometimes we have hater language, that way we're talking to ourselves. Sometimes we have motivator language. Hater language being like, oh, you can't do it. I can't believe this. You suck. I know some of us have thought that sometimes. And the motivator shoulder might say, you can do it. I believe in you. Just keep working. So the idea is to try to balance your hater motivator shoulder, where your motivator shoulder talks a little bit louder than your hater shoulder. And slowly but surely you start to redirect anything the hater says back over to the motivator side. And this is where that concept of self-compassion and being kind to yourself comes in. It really matters. But those are some really kind of important skills that I think will make a difference for any youth, no matter the sport they play, especially in soccer, but no matter the sport. And what's cool about the ones that I've referenced here today is they can kind of piggyback off of each other. So if you remember when I was talking about the imagery stuff, there's self-talk built into that. What did you remember yourself thinking in those moments? In terms of breathing, when we are redirecting negative language, or we're trying to be self-positive and kind to ourselves, can we incorporate some breathing into that as well? So there's opportunity to combine some of these skills to enhance your mindset as well. But with all of that said, the most important thing above all else is to make sure you're having fun. I know things can seem a little weird right now, and that's true for all of us. So making sure you're finding ways to have fun every single day is going to be really important. So get creative. How can you, with the trainings that you're doing every day, or the fitness you have to get done, or the ball touches you need, how can you get creative and make it fun? And making a really important emphasis of every single day. So hopefully with today's kind of discussion, you've learned a couple things that can enhance your mindset, not just in sport, but also outside of sport. Mental health is a really important topic and a really important subject. So it's really cool to be able to talk about this stuff during the Mental Health Awareness Month. But can we use this time we have right now to make advancements or progressions, not just in our physical self, but in our mental state and our mindset as well? So with that said, I really appreciate the time. If you have any questions or you want to learn more, or get in touch with me in reference to some of the stuff you learned today and talk in more detail about it, you can reach me at mindfit-performance.com, or you can email me at mindfitperformance@gmail.com. I'm also on social media on Instagram and Twitter at mind_fit. So if you have any comments or questions or want to chat some more, do some work together, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. Good luck and have some fun out there.